For many years now, the United States has done a rather poor job of taking care of our veterans, especially those veterans who come back from service with some kind of traumatic injury. Now, former President Barack Obama did attempt to change that in the year 2010 after years of mismanagement at both the Veterans Administration and within the federal government itself. But unfortunately, today, there are still far too many veterans who aren't getting the care and the benefits that they are entitled to. Joining me now to explain what's happening is Scott Hardy with Top Class Actions. And Scott, what I'm referring to specifically is called the Veterans Traumatic Injury Protection Insurance. And now this insurance, for those service members who opt into it, is supposed to pay out in the event of one of these, horrific, really, injuries that we see all the time with these veterans. But unfortunately, that's not typically the case. This is kind of proving to be a lot like regular insurance companies where you have a valid claim and they don't want to pay it. So explain a little bit what's happening here.
Right. This is a very interesting service policy. I had no idea about it until I was talking to one of the experts on this, CJ Kisich, who's actually one of the attorneys working on this investigation itself. And so it turns out that every armed forces member, when they sign up and they enlist, they have the option of signing up for, I think it's $1 a month for this specific insurance plan. And so you spend that $1 a month, it's just, automatic, why not, right? And if you get injured while you're active, while you're an active member, even if you're on the reserves, even if you're at home, you qualify. And this means that if you're sitting there on base or off base, building a bookshelf, and you slice your pinky off, well, that's terrible. And yes, it's an accident. That's covered under this insurance policy. If you are putting up the Christmas lights, which many of us are doing right now, put the Christmas lights at your house, you fall off your ladder, you hurt your back, and you go to the hospital, that's covered under this insurance policy. So you have thousands upon thousands of service members out there that have no idea this exists and that their injury, they should get paid for. If you have severe PTSD, that's covered. Loss of hearing. There are so many different injuries that are covered. It's the list is literally 5.5 pages long. That it's important that if any service member was injured while they were actively enlisted or part of the service, and they didn't get paid, they should talk to one of these attorneys and see if they are covered, because it's literally leaving money on the table. And thankfully, it is a relatively easy process to get paid as long as you've got a lawyer.
But we're seeing a lot more of this these days. Obviously, the United States is involved in lots of conflicts overseas. The Middle East, always a place where we've got troops, and a lot of them are coming back with these traumatic injuries. And that's why back in 2010, Obama signed this into law to create this program to say, listen, we understand, we had all seen the stories for years and years about the VA. They're not taking care of the veterans. They're not taking care of the injured people. So Obama tried to come out and do this thing and make it helpful. But unfortunately, we see this all the time with insurance. And this is no different than that. Insurance companies, whether it's being run through the federal government, through their contractors, or if it's just one that you go sign up for, they always want to deny claims because that's how they make their money. They don't make a lot of money if they have to pay out to everybody who has a policy, and the greed steps in, and I think that's a lot of what we're seeing right here now too.
Right, and another issue, a lot of these claims get denied because these are service members. They are tough individuals. They get hurt, they go to the hospital, they go to work, and they're not showing that they're suffering this pain. And so then you need to get that lawyer that actually says, hey, by the way, no, they actually did go to the hospital. We have witnesses that said they had to cut down their duties at work, and this is why they need to get paid. It's a very difficult process, but the nice thing is this isn't like suing the federal government. All you're doing is you're submitting a claim. So the attorney works with you, fills out all the paperwork, and then follows up and follows up and follows up. But unlike when you're suing somebody, since this is just submitting a claim, people are typically getting paid within 6 months to a year of filing it. So there's not this long, drawn out wait. If you've got that injury, the attorneys will fight for you. Again, they don't get paid unless you do, but they make sure that your paperwork's filled out correctly. They follow up on the paperwork to make sure you get paid. And, that check comes a lot sooner. There aren't big appeals processes. If you want, in a jury trial, all of a sudden the defendant's filing objections and appeals. That doesn't happen here. It's very cut and dry. You were injured. It was covered under this list of injuries. You submit your claim and you get paid.
And I think you brought up a really good point there too, just about the filling out all the paperwork and making sure it's all correct. Because we've seen too many cases in the past where these companies dealing with any kind of insurance policies, you misspell a word, right? You accidentally write down the wrong number on your address, they'll deny it. They will absolutely go through it with that, fine-tooth comb to find any kind of little error that can be like, oh, well, nope, you said this was your address, but we have it as this, you're not covered. So that is another benefit of having these attorneys there. They go through it, the staff goes through it, they give it back to you to go through it. You get lots of different eyeballs. Everybody can make sure that it's all correct. And that was going to reduce your chances of being denied for one of these little, typographical errors that we see.
Exactly. So, you'll want to take a look at this if you have an active service member that's in your household or that recently retired or just recently left the service and you think that they might be covered. It is absolutely worth their time to take a look at these injuries and see if you're covered.
Absolutely. For more information about this issue, please follow the link in the description of this video and head over to topclassactions.com. And while you're there, make sure you sign up for their weekly newsletter. Scott Hardy with Top Class Actions, thank you very much for telling us this story today.
You're welcome. Thanks for your time, Farron.